if there's ever going to be a day that we're going to get into business together, today is the day. And, we made a decision in about 5 minutes to go.
How do you think that the choices you made were just different in wanting a different life?
I went home and I told my mom, and I was very excited, and she started crying.
Welcome back to Cracking the Success Vault with Spectre Financial here. And so we are today interviewing CEO of Spectre Financial, Jason Primeau. Thanks for taking the time out of your day, obviously. It's a fun one because we work together on a daily basis. We probably spend more time with each other than we spend with our families for the most part.
Yep.
So this is going to be really fun. And I know some of your story, obviously. Yep. I don't know all of it. Sure. So we're gonna get into some of that. But let's start off with a little introduction as to where you grew up, how you got into sales, and why you wanted to start a business with a young kid like myself.
Okay, a lot to unpack. So yeah, I think I grew up in Windsor, Essex County. I was a Kingsville kid, Leamington kid, small town. My mom raised me primarily as a single parent until she married my stepdad and had my brother when I was 13. And so we, lived very modest means, for sure. And I knew I wanted more out of life. Like, I know, they say money doesn't buy happiness. Well, not having money doesn't make it very fun either. So I think that, I was very money motivated and I'll say success motivated. I wanted to achieve big things and enjoy the finer things in life. So I knew that from a very young age. I always enjoyed, whether it was a school fundraiser or whatever it was, I always enjoyed raising money and selling things. And I was highly competitive as a kid. I still am. And I think those two things sort of shaped my future. Growing up in a small town, I think I'm a pretty down-to-earth person, but with very high expectations of, myself and what's possible and what I want out of life. And so my first couple jobs, like most county kids, I worked in the cornfields one summer. I would never do that again, and I worked a summer job with a contractor doing some construction work, for, whatever minimum wage was at the time, $10 an hour or something. And then I did work with, my uncle had a company. I kind of worked my way up there a little bit. I worked my way into the drafting department there. The company shut down after September 11th there. It was kind of like the final blow there. And that's actually how I got my start in property and casualty insurance. So I was probably 22 years old, I think. It was December of 2002 that I actually got into insurance sales. And I hit the ground running. It kind of, it gave me everything that that aligned with my skill sets. It was sales, it was independent, it was competitive, and it was everything that, kind of motivated me. So not something that I ever thought that I would get into, at all. Fell into it completely by accident, but hit the ground running, and I had a great career in that space. Almost 23 years now. I think it really is kind of the thing that launched me forward in terms of success and what I wanted to do. But I would say probably at least a dozen or so years, I always had intentions of one day building my own business and running my own team and doing these things. And so when you and I met, back in 2019, I had no idea who you were or what you did or anything like that, but, you know, chance encounters, and we hit it off. And I would say that, you know, we kind of became friends more than anything else. I mean, you certainly helped me out with some financial planning for, you know, my family, but, you know, more than that, we became friends. We ended up, you know, doing the friendly poker games, and you joined me on the Wizard Transportation Club board and some different things. But, you know, what I came to see in you was sort of an untapped potential. I didn't really know your whole backstory yet, or how you did what you did or why you did it. But I just thought it was really cool that, you know, every time I would refer somebody to you, they'd always call me and be like, "Hey, thanks for that referral." And so it made me curious, like, well, what is it that you do, and how do you do it? And because you know, I feel like that's who I was on the property and casualty side. So, you know, it just piqued my curiosity. And the day came that, you know, it made sense that my path forward wasn't going to be exactly what I expected. And I was going to pivot, and it was a natural conversation to just say, hey, like, you know, I think my exact words was something to the effect, if there's ever going to be a day that we're going to get in the business together, today is the day. And, you know, we made a decision in about 5 minutes to go. And, you know, we dealt with the rest after. But that's how I've always kind of run my life. Like, you know, you don't get anywhere without taking action. Right. And decisive action. And it's all about speed and momentum. And so here we are. Like that was, I would say that conversation happened in November of 2021. And here we are, you know, 4 years roughly removed. And, you know, we've built a business. We've crushed some of the initial goals that we had. We've still got some big ones to hit. But we've really unlocked, I think, the secret to, you know, achieving what we want to achieve here. And here we are recording a podcast to share our success with people. So that's really, really a cool thing.
Yeah. And I think, as you mentioned earlier, so like there's a lot of things there to sort of unpack. So let's go back to, you know, growing up, raised by a single mom, till your mom marries your stepdad. I remember you telling me some stories of your childhood and stuff like that. Do you think that growing up with a single mom, or maybe how difficult it was, all that kind of stuff, is what led you to want to have, or want to be money motivated, want to have a different lifestyle? And the reason I ask that is because I do know that you've got a brother, obviously, 13 years younger than yourself. Yeah. Right. And there's always that story out there where, you know, there's two brothers born to the same family. You know, one goes on to be the you know, the CEO of a Fortune 500 company, and the other one, you know, takes after their parents' footsteps. Right. How do you think that the choices you made were just different in wanting a different life?
Yeah. So I think that's a great question. So when I look back, I mean, I don't even know if I really knew we were, you know, sort of like, I don't want to say poor, but like struggling, right? Because as a kid, it is what it is, right? And
your friends are your friends, and your day-to-day is your day-to-day.
Yeah, but I will say though, like there was some signs, you know, like I'd go to my friends' houses and they'd have a nice house and a pool and 2 cars in the driveway, and then I'd come home and we lived in an apartment. And we moved around a lot, and I would say that my mom constantly was looking for an upgrade for us, you know, but we didn't have those things. We didn't have the family vacations and things like that some of my friends have. I remember coming back to school after March break and everybody talking about going to Florida, and we didn't. I played basketball if it was nice enough outside, and, you know, I might have the same tan, but it wasn't from Florida. And so, I think, you know, part of me, even as a child, recognized that there has to be a better way. I don't think I understood what I was feeling or seeing at that age, but I definitely didn't have a really good grasp on money. on what it takes to do those things. But I knew I wanted it. And I would say that I always believed in myself from a very, very young age.
Is that something that your mom instilled in you? Is it something you got from playing sports? Is it something you got from selling things at school and that kind of thing?
Yeah, I don't know exactly where it came from. I will say, you know, my mom was one of 7 children. You had to fight for everything you got, right? She was an athlete, a very competitive athlete, good athlete in her younger days. And so, yeah, I grew up in a competitive family. You know, we might not have had a lot of money, but we always had fun. You know, and, you know, I'm very grateful for everything that you know, I take away from my childhood. But at the end of the day, to your point, sometimes the best lessons are the things you learn not to do, right? And so, you know, I saw my mom get up at the crack of dawn every morning and drive to a job she hated and worked with people that, you know, probably drove her nuts most of the time, and come home frustrated and exhausted and never have any, you know, let's say we made ends meet, but at the end of the day, there was nothing left over, right? And, you know, just looking at that life, I was like, no, I'm not doing that, right? I'll figure out a way to find more. And so, again, maybe it was a little bit subconscious, but I realized that I wasn't going to take that direction. Now, the work ethic and the commitment to success and family, that's from my mom.
Right.
But the path she chose was not the path I was going to take. Not that there was anything wrong with it. I credit her for doing what she did. The reality is I recognize now, knowing what I know now, that, you know, she just didn't know better, right? Having me at 18 with a high school education, you know, the opportunities probably weren't there to do much more.
Right.
She sacrificed to stay home and raise me when I was young, doing odd jobs to make ends meet. And, you know, the choice is to prioritize raising me as a single mother over, you know, going back to college and maybe taking a different path was an incredible sacrifice. So at the end of the day, you know, there's really, really strong lessons in that. But again, one of the lessons, and you know, my mom smoked. I couldn't stand it. I've never smoked a cigarette in my life. And I would say that's an example of one of the things that I've learned not to do. Right. And so, you know, when it comes to, you know, trading my time for money, I mean, my first couple of jobs is what I did. Right. And I would trade an 8-hour day for, you know, $80 and the government would take 30%. And I would be frustrated and I wanted more out of life.
Right.
And I recognized early on that wasn't the path for me. Right. I still remember the day actually that when I first got into insurance.
I was going to say, because the story you told me is a really, really funny one, because your mom's reaction is very similar to my parents' reaction.
Right. When
you get into a commission sales type role, quote unquote, eat what you kill. Yes. So tell that story.
Yeah. So I'd started in the property and casualty insurance world. The intention was that I was to cover a maternity leave for a service position for a year and then ideally move into sales. But within 3 months of being there, I recognized that I was not really going to like the service end of it. Not because of the service part, but because there was I was making minimum wage. I think I was making $12 an hour. And when I saw what, you know, I was doing 80% of the work for literally like 10% of the pay.
Yeah.
And, you know, that doesn't add up to me. So I, after 3 months, I had already learned enough that I could effectively meet people, quote the business, write the application, submit the business. And I was doing this for somebody else to get paid. And so I went to the owner and I said, listen, I know that the agreement was that I would fill this role for you for a year, but I really would like to move into sales early if that's possible. And they agreed, and it was awesome. They worked out a deal for me that I just had to train my replacement and then I could move on. So we did that. But I still remember that day that I got the okay from the the owner, I went home and I told my mom, and I was very excited.
Yeah.
And she started crying, and she was very mad at me because I made a very stupid decision to take a guaranteed income and throw it away on, a chance. And I said to her, I said, Mom, I was making $12 an hour. I could go pick up beer bottles in the ditch and make more than $12 an hour. But this was, and I've come to learn after that it wasn't because my mom didn't believe in me or anything like that. She was trying to protect me.
Correct.
And all she knew her whole life was you go to your work, you get your hourly wage, you work hard and you hope to get promoted or a raise, and you come home and you deal with it. And unfortunately, I think that's the majority of the world today, because people are afraid. People are afraid to take a chance and believe in themselves. And that's why, I think this podcast is going to be really fun to do, because we're going to talk to a lot of people who've overcome that fear and overcome that challenge and get to understand that, you really can achieve way more than you believe. Mm-hmm. You have to take off that belief lid. You have to understand what, you want out of life and what needs to be done to get that. Yeah. And the truth is, having that conversation with my mom, I still remember she was sitting there at the kitchen table and just tears. And, at the time I was mad because I felt like it meant she didn't believe in me.
Right.
Now looking back, I'm like, oh, she had her own set of fears. Mm-hmm. It was her effort to protect her son. But the reality is that, and we talk about the sales training that we do and understanding that everything in life is a commission, right? Your ability to generate revenue as a salesperson is a skill set that will ensure that you never go without, right? Because at the end of the day, your salary is just a version of a commission. Yep. They guarantee it so that they can pay you less. Right? If you're not profitable for the company, you won't have a job. There is no such thing as guaranteed income. Yep. If you don't succeed in adding value to the business will cease to exist. And so this whole misunderstanding about compensation and how you get paid is really interesting to me. And I think people who get it will always choose to be paid in a commission form, right? Because the upside, when you believe in yourself and you put the effort in and you do the right things, it's the only way you can get your fair share.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And so on that point, in our introductory episode, you made a comment about, the secret and just, not just believing it and whatever. So I don't know if you've ever seen that Jim Carrey interview with Oprah. I love it. If I could meet Jim, it'd be great. And he wrote himself a check for $10 million, acting services rendered, and he dated it like 3 or 5 years later. But he tells a really funny joke on Oprah because he used to just drive on Mulholland Drive and be like, I could have a car and I could have that house and I could have, they're out there. They're not mine yet, but they're out there. And he makes a joke that you can't just think it and then go sit on the couch and eat a sandwich. You actually have to go do work, Yes. It's one thing to believe in yourself and it's one thing but you actually have to go and do the work.
Yeah. So, and that's where I struggle with the whole secret thing. It's because, on the highest of high levels, when you look at this, the concept makes sense that if you really follow through and you open yourself to the opportunities, you can have anything, right? Yeah. I believe that. The problem is I think that most people misinterpret this and it's a very superficial belief. Yeah. And the belief needs to be followed up with action, right? Because if you believe in something and you want something bad enough, you will take the action. But for various reasons, whether it's fear, right? Fear of success or failure, doesn't matter. Yeah. Whether it's a belief issue where I don't believe that I'm capable, or I don't believe that I'm deserving, or I don't believe that it's possible. For any combination of reasons, people will say that I want something. They will say that, um, I want to be a millionaire,
Yeah.
right? Superficial,
Yeah.
right? Why do you want to be a millionaire, right? And when you start adding that piece, the why, and you dig deep enough, right? And you got to dig 4 or 5, 6 layers deep, and you really understand why you want something, then you will inherently take the next steps to put it to action.
Yeah.
So, yeah, on the surface, the sort of fluffiness of The Secret, I'm not a strong advocate for that. But when you understand the why you want something, and then you start to figure out the how you could get something, that's a different story.
Yeah, and I think you would agree with me that it's okay to also want tangible things too.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So the
Like,
whole
it's
thing
not
that
just-
money
it's not
doesn't
just-
buy happiness.
Yeah.
I'm not a real believer in that.
Yeah.
So the reality is, look, I do believe that money is a magnifier of who you are.
Right.
Right. If you're a good person, more money will make you a better person.
Right.
If you're a jerk, more money will make you a bigger jerk. But success, listen, people talk about work-life balance. I referenced this with an interview I did before. I don't really believe in work-life balance. I believe in finding your passion in life and having a life balance, right? And, I have an amazing family, amazing wife, who honestly, it gets stressful. We have 3 kids at home and we're about to have number 4.
Yeah.
And I know that she does a lot of work in running that household for us. And I'm not physically there nearly enough hours because I'm here building our business with you. And that takes its toll. But, she's a great partner in knowing where, if she needs help to ask, because I probably won't see it. And we work well together that way. But at the same time, support everything that I do outside. And the nice thing is that when it comes to trying to find a balance, I may not have 8 hours a day to be with my family, but because of what we do, when I am with my family or when I need to be with my family, and you and I have talked about this, the reason we want to be independent business owners or salespeople is because it gives us flexibility and freedom to be there when it matters.
Right.
And so could I be, the guy who, punches a clock for 8 hours a day and goes home and, cracks a beer on the couch for, whatever, and be in the house more? Sure. But what is that teaching my family?
Yeah.
Right. And so when it comes to, why do we do the 12 and 14 and 16 hour days sometimes? And how do we justify that in terms of work-life balance? It is because we want better for our life. We want more tangible things, whether it's vacations or, because these are the things that build memories.
Yeah.
Right. And so when I compare it back to, my upbringing, my mom didn't have the financial means, but we found ways. Our family vacation was a week camping out in Leisure Lake in Leamington, or maybe if we're lucky, every couple of years we might have went to Niagara Falls or something like this, right? But when I think back to my childhood, it's those things that I remember. So if I have the opportunity to give my kids more of that, that's what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
I don't remember what happened on a random Tuesday night because my mom got to be home at 3 o'clock. I don't know. I don't remember, right? So I think, it's about balance. It's about what's important to you. And everybody's going to have a different belief system.
Right.
Or different goals.
Yeah.
And that's okay. We don't have to agree, right? But you have to be in tune with what's important to you. And you have to align yourselves with the people around you that all works together. And when you find the way that it can work, and I think, looking at, my situation, my wife homeschools these kids and they're so advanced, for their age. And, I think we're winning. We're winning right now.
Right.
At life. Right. I feel like we're successful, and I think we're just scratching the surface.
Right.
Yeah. And so that's why, I think that the lessons, I've said this, I don't know, 100 times probably since we got into business together. I don't care who I learn from. I can learn from everybody, whether it's 5% or 10% or 80% of what they have to say that I can absorb. And if it has a benefit to whether it's our business or my family life or me as a person, those are all wins, right? And so the goal, your question really was about tangible assets, but whether we're talking about tangible assets or, just if it's financial or personal successes or, it's maybe validation or, I don't know, just any of the blessings or benefits that come out of what you do.
Right.
I think they're all okay.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I learned early on, it's about building a life that you don't need a vacation from.
Right.
Which I find so many people are like, oh, it's Friday. This is great. I get 2 days off. And then they dread going into the amount of times that you and I are in the office on a Saturday or a Sunday, especially in the beginning, was like constant.
Right.
Right. And I remember you telling me the story. You were making significant income working 2 hours a day from your house, probably not even, dressed, just probably in your boxers downstairs. And you started having a family and you were like, man, like I'm going to raise kids and they're going to see that I'm going to make income, but I don't have to leave the house. Like, what is that going to teach them in terms of hard work and stuff? I know that was one of the big things that sort of drove you to getting into business and doing something else.
Yeah. So that was a realization. I mean, I even knew that before I had kids, but from the minute that I contemplated maybe running my own team or starting a business, it was always front of mind that I couldn't take a leadership role, not seriously take it on without adapting a little bit about who I was and how I operated, because to be quite honest, I had a very successful career in the property and casualty insurance space without a lot of effort. And I don't mean to make that sound bad in any way. I had just always been really good at knowing what my strengths were, what my weaknesses were, and optimizing. So instead of wasting a lot of time doing things that I wasn't very good at, I got very specialized and focused on doing things that I could be highly effective at and carving out the rest of my tasks and delegating and whatever I needed to do to stay focused. And what the result was a very, very highly productive career with minimal effort. And I know some people are like, oh, you're bragging. No, it wasn't about that. I just knew that I wasn't necessarily passionate about what I was doing. I was passionate about the lifestyle that my success allowed for. And so, so what you're referencing is sort of the period of time through COVID where we were working at home. I had already started working a little bit from home because I had just, in 2019, our first daughter was born. Our second daughter was born in September of 2020, literally in lockdown. And so, I would get up at, the night times were rough, right? And I would sleep in a little bit if I could. And I would get up maybe at, 9 o'clock or 10 o'clock in the morning. I would just brush my teeth, head down to my basement office, probably still in my pajamas. And I would sit there for maybe an hour or two. I would crush through all my emails, get everything done. And then I would take a break and I would come up and I would, get ready for the day, spend some time with my wife and kids. And then if I had to, like if there was an issue, a client needed me or whatever, I would jump back in. But often that wasn't the case.
Yeah.
Right.
We golfed a lot.
I was very effective and we did golf a lot. But one thing you'll notice is that through that time frame, I actually had 2 of my best years ever.
Yeah.
So my top 3 years, the best year I ever had in sales and the third best year I ever had in sales were 2020 and 2021. And so what that sort of highlights is that, and I recognize that there was a lot of people who struggled through COVID, but, insurance is one of those things that, we talk about almost a recession-proof industry where in hard times, people need us more than ever. And the reality was where a lot of, I would suggest, my competition was trying to figure out how to manage their day and what to do because they can't see their clients and things like this. I just did what I did, right? And whether it was a phone call or a Zoom meeting or whatever it was, I just managed my day and I was able to eliminate all the travel time and all the extra
Distraction.
There was no water cooler talk at the office. It was very, very, very focused. And so because of that, and I say this, 2020 was a very unique year because, I specialized in long haul trucking insurance. And when the border shut down in March and people were parking trucks, there was about 3 months where not only was I not making money, I was losing money because fleet sizes were shrinking and things like this. And it still ended up being one of my best years ever.
Yeah.
The reality was that there was an obstacle, there was a challenge. We found ways to overcome it. And I could do my job so much more efficiently because of it. And so, not only did I already know that if I wanted to build a business, I had to be a better leader. I had to lead by example, lead from the front, don't come to work in golf shirts and shorts and running shoes. You actually have to, dress the part, right? And so I already knew that. And now coming out of COVID, I knew that I could have massive success in very short amounts of time, but that the example that was going to set for my, at the time, young 2 daughters was that, well, life is easy. We don't have to work, right? We can just, go down to the basement for a couple hours and everything's fine. And I didn't want that for them, right? That's where the lesson that my mom set, where even when you don't like it, you set the alarm and you get up and you go to work and you work hard. And even when everybody else around you is maybe not working as hard as they could, it might irritate you, but you keep doing what you're supposed to do, and you don't work to the expected level, you work to your best level.
Right.
And that's kind of the takeaway that I took the best of what I saw my mom do, and the worst part of it, where it was the trading your time for money, I just flipped that.
Right.
And by combining those two things, we had an exponential result.
Yeah.
And so,
do you think you see those lessons already being instilled in your kids? Because I know there's many times where the kids are very much like, I can't believe daddy has to go to work and all that kind of stuff. And we talk about that at the office. Obviously, I'm a new dad, so I'm going to experience that in a few years, right? But
100%.
But I also know that, again, we hang out with each other's kids. So, I know that your girls are involved in tons of sports and they do work really hard and they are doing other things that I assume is probably going to make them a success in whatever the thing they choose to do.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's, look, at the end of the day, I hope that they see what I've achieved and that they put the pieces together, that the reason we're successful is because even though we could have probably worked 6 hours a day, we chose to work 12. Right. And even though we didn't have to do training every Saturday morning, it was the best thing for the team. Right. And we sacrifice because it's the right thing to do. And by doing the right thing, everything else takes care of itself. Right. You and I've talked so many times about, we don't have to worry about the money. I mean, of course we need to worry about the money, but if we just do the right things, the money will take care of itself.
Yeah, for sure.
And, I want to set that example. So, would I rather go golfing on a Saturday morning with my buddies than, come to work and do training with the team? Of course.
Sure.
Right. Of course. I'm not golfing nearly as much these days with 3 and soon to be 4. I don't want to call them a half kid. So 3 kids here and a 4th on the way. But the reality is that, we have to be attentive to the choices we make. And those choices are going to set the example, whether it's our kids or our team at the office or our spouses or whatever, right? And so I just think that it's just very massively important that you are thoughtful about the choices you make. Not that we're going to get them all right. Absolutely, that's not the expectation.
Yeah, we know we've gotten some decisions wrong in the last 3.5 years.
Expensive lessons.
Expensive lessons. Yes. Let's come back to that belief lid thing because we only have a few minutes left.
Sure.
So you and I have talked a lot because you knew what my best year in sales was prior to starting our company.
Yeah.
and I knew what you made prior to us starting our company. You know, I don't care. I don't know if you care if I say the number or whatever. Let's say $500,000. You know, you're making whatever it is, $30,000 a month, which most people can't even wrap their brain around. Me being one of them, for a period of time there. As our company has grown and as we're starting to, you know, make some money finally after 3 years, what kind of I'm going to say lessons. What kind of advice would you give somebody who's trying to actually expand that belief lid in themselves? Because, you know, and I always come back to, you know, you're the average of the 5 people you hang around with the most. I really only hang around with one because I don't do anything else besides work.
That's what happens when you have a family.
But you know, obviously yourself and our other partner, you know, are, I'm not going to say dragging me along, but bringing me along. I'm learning a lot from both of you. But what kind of advice would you give somebody who's trying to actually make that belief lid bigger for themselves?
Yeah. So the first thing is that I would say you don't give yourself enough credit. First of all, we're not dragging you along or whatever. That's not the case. I think that I would say it more like we're helping you open your eyes to the possibility.
Right.
And, you know, at the same time, I believe that literally anything is possible. Anything. If you want to be, you know, a billionaire, there's a path to that.
Right.
Right. It's about figuring out, one, why you want to do it, because without the why, you won't take the action needed. Right. Once you understand why you want to do it, then you can start to build the plan as to how you can achieve it. Right. And what has to happen, and you know, you and I both are big fans of like personal professional development, and we do a lot of reading and a lot of, you know, following different influencers and things like this to understand the motivations and the path to success. And when I look at things like, you know, Atomic Habits was a great book in terms of changing my mindset around always setting a big goal. The goal is there for me. I'm a goal guy, but understanding that what's more important is to focus some attention on the atomic size habits, the very, very small details that will help me get to the big goal, right? Instead of just having the big goal and like not really understanding how I'm going to get there, you need to break it down.
Right.
You need to break it down to what are the best 10 things that I can do every day to ultimately get there. And so the first thing is just getting the self-doubt out of the way and just saying, okay, you know, this is my goal, whatever it is, right? It doesn't really matter. But I've said this, how many times I've said I want to buy a private island, right? I don't really care if I ever buy a private island. What I'm trying to get across to people is that it's okay to think crazy big. Mm-hmm. Because here's the thing. If I strive for that goal of buying a private island and I fall short, I'm still going to be way further ahead than 97% of the population.
Right.
And so, you know, when we talk with our advisors and we talk about goal setting and things like this, a lot of people have a hard time with it because they are afraid to fail. They are afraid to put a number out there that they can't hit. Mm-hmm. But the problem is until you actually get out of your own way, get out of your, you know, the fear of failure or maybe it's the fear of success. Again, like that one blows my mind, but some people, like, it's come to my attention that they really are afraid of success. And I think it comes to like if I do this, then how do I account for the fact that I didn't do it sooner? Or how do I not do the next thing?
Yeah.
Right. But realistically, figuring out what you want and why is the key to unlocking everything. Because once you know why you want something, and if it's meaningful enough, you can build the roadmap to get there.
Right.
And, you know, that's really what you have to do. And because I know that there's a process, and we've talked about systems and processes, how many times? I know that there's a process. Too many times. But the reality is it all boils down to having a plan, a systematic approach to these are the things that are massively important that will move the needle in the direction I want to go, and doing them consistently and repetitively enough that you can't fail. And at the end of the day, like, it's the Cardone 10X thing, right? If I know that X number of phone calls will yield me X number of appointments, which should yield me X number of dollars of revenue, and I have a revenue target to hit, why not just do 10 times more the requirement? Guarantee my success.
Right.
Right. And so when you can start to believe that literally anything's possible. I mean, some people get funny about money. I really don't. But when we talk about, the potential for, $150,000 commission deal, a single deal, or $1 million commission deal that's currently in the works. Most people's minds explode when they think about that. It's not possible.
Yeah.
Well, actually it is. And it's no harder than the deal that I did that made us $1,000.
Yeah. I mean, I would say that would be a huge lesson that I learned from you early on is it's just another zero. Like it's a deal and you're helping somebody out, but it's just another zero.
The concept hasn't changed.
Right. But it's interesting
because the solution isn't any different.
Because people grow up, and I think it's probably because people grow up with a past or they think, I've read lots of books in there that, people think like, oh, they see that guy driving a really expensive car and they think like, oh, that guy must be like filthy rich. Well, being rich doesn't have to be filthy. Like it can be a great thing. Having money can be a great thing. Yeah. But that conscious sort of negative belief that having money makes you a bad person, or that just because that guy has a really nice car, he must have screwed some people over. Like there's so many people that believe that. Yeah. When really, I mean, talking about that deal, I mean, it's great that potential thing we're working on could pay us $1 million or more, but the problem we're solving for that client is actually 20 and 30 times that deal.
That's right.
Right? But people don't put those two and two together.
And it's all perspective.
Right.
Right? And so, I learned that very, very on, that the quickest way to scale is just to add zeros.
Right.
I don't care about the size of the deal. And it's so funny because I sit in meetings with people all day who are doing $1 million deals, multi-million-dollar deals. And as long as you're confident and as long as you believe that you belong in that room with them, they're happy to have you there.
Right.
Right. And if you actually add value to the conversation, again, it's about doing the right thing. You add value to that conversation and you come with legitimate solutions and you teach them something or you educate them in some way, they're happy to pay you that price.
Right.
Right. And, I say this all the time, and it doesn't matter whether I was in the property and casualty space or sort of in the financial services space. Our job as salespeople, as advisors, is really to solve problems. And if you can solve problems, that's where the value is.
Right. And the bigger the problem you solve,
the more money you make,
the bigger the payday you get.
Yeah. And there's nothing to be ashamed of in that. Again, it goes back to money is just a magnifier. So if you're a good person and you do good things and you make more money, you'll just be a better person. Right. And that's kind of, we've got our nonprofit that we've started now.
Right.
And I think that speaks volumes to, the type of people we are and want to be, that we have an avenue to help a lot of people, and there is a lot of compensation on the table, and that's okay. And we'll do some wonderful things with that money.
Right.
Philanthropy was never a thing that I grew up thinking that I would aspire to.
Right.
But now that it's possible, I can't wait. Right.
Yeah.
I think at the end of the day, whether, if success does mean, that yacht or the plane or the private island, or if it just means the freedom to have more time to do the things you love with your family.
Right.
It doesn't really matter. Success for everybody is going to be unique and different. And I think that the path to success for everybody is going to be unique and different. And all of the paths are okay.
Yeah.
And this is what I'm excited to share, because I know my story is very unique. I know your story will be very unique. And I think that when people start to understand that, people who actually come from backgrounds like ours can be highly successful, can contribute to the world in a meaningful way, and that, it's okay to believe in yourself. It's okay to be aggressive and want things. It's okay to want the nice car if that's what you want. Everything's possible.
Right. And on that note, since we're coming to a close, and you're talking a little bit about success and everything like that is different for everybody and their path is different. We always end the podcast asking the person, the interviewee, what success means to them. So to Jason Primeau, what is success to you?
Yeah. So success to me, I think ultimately will boil down to my legacy. And success to me, it's very important that at the end of my life, that my wife and my kids are proud of what I've built and what I've done, that we've lived the life that we've wanted, that, some of it is going to be tangible, right? Some of it will be, being able to take my entire family and travel the world and show them all of the different wonderful things that are out there to see, that my kids will be able to have any opportunity they want, whether it's a certain school, whether it's a certain career. I want them to know that anything is possible. I want to build kids, my young kids into adults that understand that everything is possible as long as you do the right things. And so, good, whether we're talking about the business that we're building or my family, I just want to do the right thing. And I want to be known as somebody who, we may not disagree, but you can't argue with the fact that I had a positive effect, right? We might not do it the same way. I might choose a different path than you, but at the end of the day, I don't want to have enemies. I don't want to have anybody saying, "Oh, he must have screwed somebody to get there."
Right.
It's very important to me that we build a long-lasting legacy that our entire family can be proud of.
Right.
Whether we're, our team, our family, whoever.
Right. That's awesome. Well, that's it for today, guys. Thanks for tuning in to the Successful podcast, and we'll see you next time.